Hi there, everyone. Welcome. Welcome back to the Eindhoven Innovation Cafe. And welcome to the newcomers who has never been here before at the Innovation Cafe. Ah, just, that, is it not true? A few more, okay. Yeah, welcome. We're Kazerne Foundation. We founded the Kazerne, and we are really happy to talk to you about design and to discuss what the importance is of the role of tech and design together, because that's where the magic happens here in Eindhoven. And let's start prototyping a better future together. That's why we organize this every month. As soon as we have more budget, it will be bi-weekly. And in the end, I hope to go back to once a week, but that's a challenge. Tonight, we have a new moderator, Simone de Waard. We have two speakers that I already know for quite a while. With Linde, I'm working with the Back to the Flax collective. Marc from EE Labels and EE Exclusive, he is presenting here since the beginning already. Since the very first time we had a pop-up here in Kazerne, you were presenting the label. And actually, we know each other from the Design Academy already, so that's also a long time. It feels like family. Yeah, I'm really curious about what you're going to tell us, and let's give them some fire.
Thank you, Annemone, for organizing this, and also thank you for the invitation. Again, a hearty welcome to all of you. Who is wearing, with this very hot weather today, a very likely linen textile? 3, 4, 5, 5? And Marc, of course. Who is wearing purely cotton? Okay, more. Or some doubts? And who is wearing something synthetic? You might feel it. Okay. And last question, who is checking these labels? Because you seem to be quite well aware of what you're wearing, so that means that you check the label? Or who's checking the label with the purchase? Okay. And besides checking what is maybe for your comfort, what feels good, who is also checking where it comes from? And does it have an influence? If you see, wow, something about the origin might be not that something that I expect or would like to contribute to, do you change your decision then? Ooh, okay, you change your decision. Well, I think the two speakers will help you to change that habit as a consumer. I first would like to give the floor to Marc Evers from AA Labels. I think, I can read it out loud, but you know where you came, well, why you are here, because what thread broke first, the knowledge or the chain. So we can discuss that, and I hope in the end there will be some also conclusions on what we all can do to create the better future that Annemone was referring to when it's coming to originally natural textiles. But first, sorry, we'll give the floor to you first, and you talk about, because we have these lovely items here, but you will introduce yourself and talk about your work, right? Floor is yours.
Will. Is it, yeah, it's working. Thank you very much, Annemone, for inviting me to speak here today. I'm a little bit nervous, so I thought I would just tell you, and then hopefully it will go away, but I'm very thankful. I am here, my name is Linde van Vlijmen. I am a third-year student at the Design Academy here in Eindhoven, but I have a little bit of life before that already. I studied psychology and organizational anthropology. I worked for a few years, and then I thought something's missing in my life, and it was the Design Academy. And I think in my previous studies and work, I've always kind of I was given these frameworks to look at how humans behave and also how they make sense and they kind of give sense to the world around them from a human perspective, a Western perspective. And then I came to Design Academy and I came into this world of biodesign, natural fibers, and I got very interested in where do these materials come from, how are they made. I was fascinated to learn how linen was made. That I always thought, how do you make a textile from a plant? Like I thought it must be very difficult. So I got really interested in this, and altogether I kind of find out like whether you talk about behavior, about culture, about materials, there's always a system. There's a social system, there's a production system, there is basically, I remember this quote from a teacher I had once, is that systems is what makes us get up in the morning. Without systems, we would be lost and we wouldn't do anything, whether it's about your brain or just getting somewhere in the first place or to have a house. And then in the first year, I got involved with some fellow students, and we founded Back to the Flax. And this was kind of this curiosity to learn. You know, they make us work with all these materials, but they don't really teach us where it comes from. So we thought we were given the opportunity at Heeze to have 1,000 square meters. We started planting our own flax. And the first year was a big disaster when it comes to the harvest, because it was very rainy and all the seeds kind of like flushed away, and we had very short fibers. But it was already quite interesting to learn, like, okay, now we have this very limited amount of materials. What are we going to do with it? And we were very lucky to be involved with the Kazerne Foundation, and Annemoon gave us the opportunity to exhibit here, and it really made us think about, it activated us. So we started thinking, you know, okay, what is it that we want to tell? What is it that we find interesting? And I think right now it's an ongoing research process in which we learn about flax, in which we try to build this local system of people that we work with, of people that help us. And I think so far what we've really learned in this ongoing research project is, sorry, I got distracted by the phone. It's okay.
What you've learned in the process you were talking about.
Yeah, what we've learned, or what we've been doing so far is that, we try to work with all these different partners. So there was a very lively textile industry in the Netherlands, especially around flax. So it's a really big cultural material. So there's a cultural system around it, and not just in the Netherlands, worldwide. It's a very interesting material with a big heritage. But in the Netherlands, this industry kind of like disappeared. So we can weave, we can have it processed. So from the last harvest last year, which was really good, we have these 60 kilograms of flax that we processed at Vanderbilt, which is in Zeeland. So, you know, locality, I guess, is also a flexible term. But then we ran into this problem that there is actually no spinning industry that's nearby. And that this was kind of lost, and especially with flax, it's a very specialty technique that is quite difficult. And then also for the weaving, we can weave in combination with cotton, but we cannot weave pure linen within this area. I guess what kind of what we learned, I think it's more a question that we kind of ask ourselves is, what do we do? Do we make our own spinning industry? Do we go to Belgium? Or with our last exhibition here at Dutch Design Week at Kazerne, we kind of thought, you know, we just don't spin at all, and we kind of use this as a new way to work with flax. You can also see it here on the right. I think what worked really well and what we've kind of learned from this process is that if you use this part as, instead of forcing to repair the cycle or to go somewhere else, but you kind of like go back to the field, and we got inspired by these big bushes that you see when you harvest. We got inspired like, maybe we don't need to spin it at all, and we can give a new aesthetic to flax. and use it in a different way in which we don't actually add any. This is just the flax that is half processed. So we take half of the stems, we get the fiber out, and then the kind of straw-like part of the stems, we bundle them together, and we make a stool out of it. So after this, we can take it apart, we can reprocess it, so with this kind of like, because we couldn't spin it, actually we created something that was very local and circular, and we can keep playing with it. I think this is my story.
Can I have one question to add? Because you're
Yeah.
part of a collective, right? So we see some members over there. Maybe
Yeah.
we can briefly tap into that. What is this collective? And also maybe you can, because it is ongoing materials research, what will be your dream? What are you heading?
That's a very good question. I think we have different dreams, and working with 11. So we're all students at Design Academy. Everybody's in their third year, apart from one, and we have different cultural backgrounds, different experiences. We have someone who's a chef. We have someone who's more into jewelry design. People who work with wood. So it's a very diverse group, I guess. It's interesting and challenging to work together because we're very non-hierarchical and very democratic, and everybody has their different ideas and visions. So what we do is to make this work together. Is we have like working days, so days in the field, and we come together and we just play around with the material, and we see what comes out of it. And what was the next question?
Your dream.
Oh, the dreams.
Or the dream of
I think
collective.
Yeah, I think for some of us, they're very interested in the community part. So how can we do more about education and kind of retrieve this knowledge system that we have lost, more maybe than the production chain, is that there's also a loss of knowledge. And then others are very interested more in like, can we create a new material with it or do something surprising. There's different dreams.
Okay. Thank you, and I would like to hand over to Marc.
Is it on? Yeah. Okay, Marc Evers of E-Labels and E-Exclusives. We start with the sexy part. E-Exclusives is we do exclusive wall coverings and fabrics, wall hangings, textile wall hangings, so woven art basically. And this is a picture of Heeze ten Bos, the Blauwe Zaal, where we did the wall coverings in 12. It's this whole story of the Van Oranjes in, I think, 18 panels around the hall. And it was a difficult job to get this woven. We worked on it for almost 2 years. And in the end, we had to match the green color to the Rembrandts that are hanging left and right of the panel. So it was not easy, but very nice. And it's a great activity we have in our company. Like I said, the company is 125 years old. I'm the 4th generation. My son and daughter are in the company and slowly taking over or quickly taking over the company. But the biggest part of our company is E-Labels. That's what drives our business, and we do branding for fashion, for interior brands, for automotive, or for medical. We have companies that make braces, push braces, and on everything you wear there's a label. And so the label is the branding of a product, but the label is also the information. You all read the label where how it's what is the fabric, what is material? Is it cotton or is it polyester? Or is it a linen, or is it a lyocell? Where it's made, and so it's the information point. And we figured that out. We knew that, of course, but like 15 years ago, there was a big fire in Moerdijk. There was Chemiepak was on fire, and there was a lot of pollution because those chemicals burned, and they spread all over the region. And then I read in the paper, you can check on your milk pack where it comes from. And that time you could type in on the internet a number, and then you could see whether it was from a farmer in the east of the Netherlands, or whether it maybe was from West Brabant where the fire was. So I thought, when that is in food now, it will be the same in textiles, let's say in 10 years. So we started investing in technology to track and trace textiles. Right now we do labels for unique labels, unique QR codes, unique numbers for a lot of brands, especially in workwear, because workwear is washed many times in severe conditions. And we have now around 50 brands that use our unique QR code. So every garment can be identified, so you know what garment it is, but also from which batch and where the cotton comes from. And so you can track everything down. And I think that is a very important thing, that in the future, if we want to recycle or upcycle textiles, then we have to know what is inside. And I think we'll discuss that. And if you want to upcycle or recycle garments, you have to have monomaterials. We discussed that shortly. If it's a mix of all kinds of fibers, it's very difficult to recycle a garment. So one thing is a monomaterial. So we deliver labels in all kinds of materials, whether it's cotton or polyester, follow it through the whole life cycle of the garment, whether it's reselling or recycling or whatever. The information is in the label. So that's
Thank you,
as
Marc.
an introduction to the company.
Thank you so much. You talked about the digital product passport. I don't know if people are familiar with that. The digital product passport, which will be, some of you are. So that is what you explained, that you've been working on that right now. And also for you, what's the main challenge? What will be for you, like, what's your dream? If we think about a bright future, what will it be?
Yeah, for me the dream would be that we are able to recycle, let's say 80% of the garments that we wear, that we are able to recycle them and reuse the fibers at the same level. So that would be a dream. That let's say in 10 years we are. I realistically, if we are at 40% in 10 years, I think we're doing as a society a great job.
Yeah, we have the goals, 2050, but earlier 2030. So if it's realistic, that depends also on companies.
2030 is quite close.
Okay. What's needed? What's needed to get there?
First of all, clarity from the government and European Union what they really want. It's 2027. The digital product passport should be implemented. At the moment, it's not clear what information should be in that product passport. So.
But we can't wait for the government, right?
No. Yeah.
We also have to do something ourselves.
Yeah.
And true, maybe the regulations are not set yet, but you are doing a pioneering job for so many years already with your company, so you also kind of help them to figure out what's needed, right? What would be in the passport?
We work with customers who understand where they are going, and they want to be front runners, and so we don't wait until the regulation is clear. We'll adjust our product passport when everything is clear, but we logically want to have this information visible to our consumers or companies that we deliver, and they just start.
Yeah, you're a bit too humble, I think, because you did a pioneering job and you also work with other pioneers that are doing a very good thing. So,
Yeah, that's about the recycling. We work with Saxel. Saxel is a startup in Twente, related to Saxion Hogeschool and the University of Twente, and they are able to recycle cotton fibers to lyocell, which is a chemical process, but they end up with a cotton type of fiber, and all the chemicals stay in the process, so they don't have any spillage. So, yeah, I think that's the way forward if we want to reuse our natural fibers. Then the Saxel is a very good example, and yeah, they're going to the next stage and are in production as we speak.
maybe, because now I'm asking the questions, but there might be questions from the audience, or you want to maybe, not a question, but also remark. Yes. I come to you with a mic. I hold it if it's okay for you.
I see the importance of labels and what you try to achieve, but usually labels clash with the aesthetic concept of the object they are labeling. Do you have any idea how you can achieve what you want to achieve without this conflict?
Where do you see the conflict?
Yeah, so a label is usually ugly. Yeah, and usually it's also an afterthought. Yeah, so somebody designs a piece of cloth, and then the label is put on. And it often also has to comply with certain regulations. Yeah? So it is actually a disturbance of the object.
I never looked at it in that way. That's an eye-opener for me. We think our labels are beautiful that we make. But yeah, I see your point. But in the end, people want to buy, are buying garments. And if you buy a car, you have a brand preference. So whatever, whether it's a bicycle or a car, you have a brand preference. So branding is in our society is a way to create brand preference from consumers. So yeah, I think it's inevitable that you, in one way or the other, show your brand, and people also, it reassures you that it's well made, that it's you trust in the brand that you buy. So in that sense, I think you cannot sell garments without branding it, because if you want to do good things, it might be. I mean, you can buy the cotton T-shirt at certain web shops for €3, but maybe the good T-shirts with a sustainable approach will cost €30. If you cannot differentiate the white T-shirt, the one from the other, if there's no brand in it, it will be difficult. And of course, you can discuss on how can you brand a garment in a beautiful way. But if you, we can have a separate meeting for that.
It's a good suggestion that you say the honesty and the trust comes with the aesthetics, right? This is what your plea, as I understand you correctly.
So if you stay with the analogy of the car, so the branding is usually actually part of the aesthetic concept. But the license plate isn't. And you need a license plate, but it's ugly.
Yeah, about...
And the same is true also for, a shirt where you have a label.
Yeah, you talk more about the care label, the information label, yeah.
Convey this information,
yeah.
Without, and indeed, the branding is maybe a solution, right? So if you say this is a good, trustworthy brand, and that's maybe one way to do this.
Yeah.
But,
at the moment, it's still an obligation to put a label, a care label with eye-readable information. You're not allowed to put a QR code for that reason, because you force the consumers to use their phone all the time. So, yeah, there will be a choice if you would do that in another way, you can do it with an RFID, you can do it with a QR code.
But I guess there's also a difference in the luxury of the garment, and also what's on the label, because I think there are definitely examples of garments in which the label is part of the aesthetic, because they want you to read what's on it. But I think it's also used in we've all had these itchy labels here, and the first thing you do is you cut it out. So probably it's a choice. So they probably don't want you to read what's on it, but they get rid of it. And in that sense, if you have a luxury brand, the label is also kind of an insurance or a signal that you have something that's valuable. So also if you give it a second life or you give it to someone else, it's kind of like a longer life cycle because it's a brand. And I think that's also the label.
I think in all the platforms where garments are resold, it's only branded garments. There's no there are no Temu garments or that are resold on Vinted. Yeah? It's only branded labels, branded garments, because people place value on it.
2 more questions. I think you were first. Come to you.
Okay, hi. So I was wondering, the passport labels, what are the problems in the production train of garments? Because I know because of legislation, currently there's no communication or setup within the production of fibers to making a textile and then a company acquiring a textile. So I have seen so many labels that were incorrect because they can sell something like a fabric without you actually knowing the process behind it. How is that passport having that passport would change everything, but how is it in transparency?
Yeah.
But how are you going to get information from people that were never planning on being transparent because it wasn't needed?
Yeah. No, then I think that like 6-7 years ago, everyone was talking about blockchain for that reason. But one of my customers says, "Yeah, I'm a trusted brand. If people don't trust me, they shouldn't buy from me." That's a bit too easy, maybe. But I mean, if you want to cheat, you can always cheat. And I think if you look at cotton, they go. I don't think like the milk pack. I don't want to know every day where my milk comes from. But when there's a fire somewhere in a chemical place, or when there's a fire in Bangladesh where 200 people died in a factory, then I like to know, is my brand also producing in that factory? I mean, it's more like that. You don't want to have the information all the time, but when there's a problem, or sometimes you want to know. And with natural fibers, they plan to go rather far. From which batch comes, let's say, is the cotton from the Uyghur in China or not? But with the polyester, yeah, it's quite difficult to say the oil comes from Venezuela or Iran or Russia. Because it's all a mix, so you can only go so far, and I think that's an obligation of a brand to be trusted. And I don't know exactly how the rules will be, but I understand your question, and it's the digital product passport is definitely not an answer for everything, and will not solve all the problems. But it's a good step forward.
And not an answer yet. We are in a transition time, so don't forget about that. There's an urgent question here.
Hello, my name is Steven. I have a question for Linde. I grew up in Zeeland. I've been there 2 weeks ago, visiting some family. The past few years when I was there, I hardly saw any fields of flax. But I noticed 2 weeks ago there are quite a few fields of flax again. So is flax also making a comeback in agriculture? And yeah, is flax making a comeback in agriculture too?
Definitely, I think it's gaining a lot of interest for different reasons. You can use it as insulation. I think linen is making a comeback. So this whole idea of locality, of natural fibers, is very popular. So a lot of designers are working with it. Bigger labels as well, and yeah. So that's a good observation. Yeah.
Yeah, and indeed, locality is absolutely a theme. We did this year a lot of for a lot of brands. They really show it on the garments. Let's say the fabric is knitted in Germany for a German brand, or Belgium linen. There's still a very good linen weaver, and so we really promote again where it's made in England. Yeah, it's really coming back.
And also, flax, it grows really well in the Netherlands, as in it doesn't need a lot of water, so it's very labor unintensive. Or so they don't have to do too much to grow it. It doesn't take a lot of chemicals. It looks really nice if it's flowering.
Like I said, until a few years I see it coming back again, but I think the past decade or before, or since this millennium, I hardly ever saw fields of flax. So if it's such labor friendly, probably you don't know, but I don't know.
I mean, I don't know exactly, but my most educated guess would be that farmers are also entrepreneurs. So if there's a demand for flax, they will grow it, and if there's not, they don't. And I think because making linen is quite an intensive process if you compare it to cotton, I guess also wool, also polyester. These industries are much bigger. Yeah, that's also a part that it's more labor, so it's more expensive to make linen. And in that sense, I think when cotton came up and it was easier, and it's easier to dye, so they have more bright colors. So then, yeah, this part of the industry gets a boost, and it's used a lot, and it was popular, and also now it's linen again. So. Maybe to come back to the question of what is my dream, I hope linen will stay.
Yeah, you said back to the flax, but maybe it's forward to flax then. Could that be?
Yeah, it's a little reference to the movie Back to the Future, in the sense that we try to kind of regain this system of knowledge that we've lost, and that is, that's very extensive, and then try to see how can we retrieve this and reactivate it and actually use this to look for how we can apply it now and how it can help for a more sustainable future. And I think this knowledge, we have it already, and we keep recycling it. And it's important to safeguard it.
So I have a question with regard to local industries. I was wondering what a local, maybe Brabant-based textile recycling would look like. How would textile recycling look like scaled up in the region?
Yeah.
Rephrase your question is about if it's also possible to have the locality involved in recycling, local recycling systems, right? And scaling it up.
Yeah. I think if you look at there are more ways to recycle textile. One is respinning. So if you make fibers from old garments and you cut the old garments and you get a bit like this. You get a chamber full of fibers. If you recycle fibers, they always become shorter. So if you spin a yarn from short fibers, the quality of your yarn is low. Because the shorter the fiber, the more open the yarn is and the more it's spilling and it's wearing out faster. So in that process they always add new fibers with enough length to make sure you get a yarn that is good enough to make a garment or a carpet or whatever you want to make of it. And then you have the chemical recycling. I talked about Textile. You recycle, for example, cotton garments in a chemical process, and you can do that at scale. So at the moment, they're raising money. They're almost ready to raise the amount of money for a medium-sized factory in Enschede, where they can do many tons of lyocell made from recycled garments. So that's a good step. It's a bit the same like the Flax. To spin a yarn from that, we don't have the companies that can spin a yarn. So they make let's say the pulp. They make the lyocell pulp, and it goes to Turkey to spin a yarn from it. So we don't have a factory here around, not in Belgium, not in the Netherlands, where we can spin a lyocell yarn. There's just, it was in the papers, for polyester recycling, there's a big subvention from the Netherlands, the Dutch state, of 130 million for a factory Heeze, it's called, in the plant where, let's say the DSM plant in Limburg, and they are building a very big, at a big scale, a plant for recycling polyester fibers. So then you can also recycle polyester, whatever. At the moment, polyester recycled fibers are made from bottles. In the future, they want to make them from recycled garments. And that's possible in that factory. And then you're really talking about tons and tons of fiber per year. So there are possibilities, but it is early stage. And like you said, also with the Flax, we have Van der Bilt here in Zeeland who can make they call pre-spinning, what they do.
Yeah, it's processing of
the process
into raw fibers.
Yeah, and so in that shape it goes to China.
Yeah,
call it like it is. It goes to China to spin linen yarns from it.
I would just like to then ask, how likely do you think that these industries will return to become local, return to the region?
I think maybe to add something is, I think there's also different cycles of recycling or reusing. So if you make a garment that's high quality and has a good label, and then you don't want to use it, you bring it to a local thrift store. So this is already kind of like keeping it in the cycle, and then maybe after this it can go to a local collection point, and then they separate it, and then enlarge. So I guess it like the kind of recycling. Yeah, you have kind of steps in which. Yeah, of course, if the quantity is bigger, it becomes less local. But I think there is definitely a lot of there's a lot happening already, and I think that's also interesting. If you are a designer or a fashion brand, or is to think about this afterlife, so to start designing for what will happen next, and how can I make sure that I can keep it looping for as long as possible.
But your question is also, how likely is it that we can produce at scale in the future and nearby? Huh? Yeah, and I think our aim should be is that we can recycle at scale in Europe. I mean, I think it's not realistic that you say that we have planned for spinning linen in every European, all the 27 European countries, and respin cotton to lyocell in all 27 European countries. I think if we achieve it, that we can, let's say, recycle and process, because that's the question. If the production cost of, let's talk about garments, because that's a big part of the textile. Production costs in the Far East are so low that it's very difficult to, if you do the recycling, you make a yarn out of it. You can only do that, you can only produce the garments in Europe, or let's say, if we say in Europe, I would include Turkey, Tunisia, the countries around Europe. You can only do that for garments at a medium to high price point. I think, let's say, the 80% of the market is a lower price point, and with the production cost, let's say the labor cost in Europe, it's impossible to do that part of the market. So I think, first of all, focus at that part and make sure, because the volume is, of course, in the 80% cheaper garments, and yeah, we have to find a way to get the waste that we produce here, to get that to the Far East, to reprocess and do that there, because otherwise we will make it impossible for a big group of consumers to buy textiles.
We have another question here.
Okay, my name is Gerwin. I want to ask you additional question about waste. Because I understood, I never knew that we produce about twice the amount of textile that we need on a yearly base, and that we only use 50%, and 50% also part of it is ending up in countries like in Bolivia in the mountains and blah blah, we dump it. So since you are close to that industry, do you see solutions how we can get the total amount that we produce per year down? Because this is already doubling the problem.
I think we don't. I don't think we produce twice the amount that we consume, but we overproduce for sure. And yeah, the margins for certain brands, they produce at very low cost, and they sell high. So it's very challenging to, or very interesting to buy a lot, to overproduce, because every garment that you sell gives such a lot of profit that you can still throw away 20% of your production in the end. So that is it should be forbidden to waste. But it's also, having said that, it's also in the same in food. Yeah, if there are many onions or too many apples or too many potatoes, they just burn them. Huh?
It's clear that things need to change in the system,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you go back to like reconnecting the threads, it might be also reconnecting to a system or kind of build up new systems. I think it's good to also into that, referring to your question, that is true what's happening. And we come from an Anthropocene and are moving towards a Symbiocene where we live more in balance with nature and our limited sources on Earth, where everything that is limited because we still have one planet and we have to deal with that also in the future. So it's also like, maybe there's not one solution, this is the one thing that you mentioned, right? So it's also about on the production side. And to add to this also, producers will be responsible with a new law of extended producer responsibility, so that will be one part. We have the consumers involved, and we have, of course, what we can do from design perspective. So I would like to refer, going back to the systems. You want to say something, Annemone?
What can we do to help the system to improve it?
Well, I had a similar question in mind, maybe for the group, since we were talking about labels and how I think many of them actually don't read them, or we do read them, but we're not super affected by what's on it. So I was wondering, what would you like to have on a label other than what has to be there?
Yeah, well, when I'm honest, I look at the price, and that is the label which you throw away before you wear it. But I think that is what, and looking at price, in the end, the whole system in the world is less boosted by the profit everybody makes, and as long as that is the main driver, let's say, of each company, of each economy, then it will be very difficult, in my view, to have not if you don't change that main goal, profit. There should be other goals as well in order to make a change. So for me, the solutions will be in putting more goals to a company than an organization than only profit.
Suggestion for the goal?
Yeah, suggestions can be sustainability. It can be how many jobs do you keep for people? So you have social, let's say, goals, and you can have environmental goals, health goals. So other goals.
And more than the sustainable development goals, you mean? There's another one who you would like to add to this?
Thank you. I think partly it's the answer to your question, but also my own question together.
Yeah, sure.
What I like to see on the label is who is labeler, who gave this label. Because if the brand is labeling itself, I partly trust, but immediately mistrust, because you are interested party.
And who would you trust?
The question will be this duality of the labeling, right? Duality of the brand. Brand is here to be proud and so on, but also they are also misleading us. They're deceiving, they're cheating, and greenwashing, all those things. So actually I'd like to have kind of label that controls, give me a second opinion. So therefore I need to have who is labeling these things. This dependence or independence. It's partly answer a question, but also a question of how do you see the ambiguity of the labeling and branding.
Maybe first an answer and then I give yeah. Can you answer the questions, both of you?
Yeah.
Or give it a try.
I don't know who labels the labels.
I mean, if you... Sorry, I know you go first. No. First you have to decide what is right and what is wrong. What is good and what is not good. And that already is a difficult question. Is cotton good? Or is polyester good? Or is wool good? You know, there are a lot of, influencers, lobbyists in Brussels. And I can tell you that the number of lobbyists for the oil industry, for the polyester industry, is way bigger than for wool or for linen. So if there's a score for the sustainability of the yarn, I can tell you right now that polyester is more sustainable than linen. Because they have 2,000 lobbyists and linen industry has 20. Of course, I'm exaggerating a bit, but it is not so easy. I mean, polyester is not only wrong at 80 to 90% of the production of yarns or textiles in the world is polyester or nylon. It's man-made fibers, and only 10 to 15% is natural fibers. So that's a big thing. And yeah, who has to be the referee for this system? And there are I think around 30 certificates in Europe for sustainability, for how you treat, how you produce, and where you produce, and so you can find brands who use those certificates, and I can tell you those certificates are really checked by the companies that issue those certificates. So that could be a help if you buy garments, if they are certified in, you can look it up, but there are 30 different certificates, and I cannot tell which one is the best. But yeah.
But I guess with certificates and also with what's, and I'm just thinking out loud right now, also with the information we have on labels right now, is that there is such a world behind it that you don't know anything about, especially not if you're in a store. You're like, no, I like this top, and yeah, it's wool. Let's go. It's good, or it's polyester, but you like it anyway. And so yeah, maybe there you need so much information, you need so much knowledge, and it needs so much research to actually have an opinion about it. And then even whether it's good or bad is ambiguous and depends on what you look at. So maybe, I don't know, we can think of a labeling system that doesn't tell you this is good or this is bad, but kind of gives you the options. Okay, it's cheap, so, the fibers are good, but, labor circumstances, not so good. So you can decide what's actually important to you, because right now with the consumer, we have a lot of power, but also there is very little autonomy other than some vague parameters that, you get distrustful. Wool can be good, can also have a huge impact on the environment. So yeah, maybe we should have more symbols or information on that you can kind of make up the balance yourself, in a way.
How strict do I need to be in time? Because I have 3 more questions here. Can we do all the three?
Thank you. I have a few questions about this one. You said the procedure of recycling the fabric, but yeah, how you sort these different kinds of these fabric? For example, how you notice that this is cotton, this is not, this is polyester, so we can recycle it in a specific way, or how you do that? And if it's possible, why don't we use such a process for labeling these things? I mean, we need some information from the manufacturer, so if we can detect it, why we don't use it for labeling?
Yeah, your first question: how do they at the moment separate the different streams? It's especially it's hand sorting at the moment. The things that we gather here go to Morocco and are sorted out. This is cotton, this is wool, this is polyester, and people. I mean, you probably after an afternoon you can tell which is cotton, which is linen, which is polyester, and they can sort out even more. This is good quality wool, this is medium quality wool. So yeah, that's possible, and they're working on, and they already have system that you can sort it automatically, and that will come very soon. You also have a startup in Amsterdam where they sort fabric, sort garments on color as well. So they have the orange stock, the red stock, the blue stock, the green stock, and then you can respin the yarn and don't have to dye it. So there are more possibilities. And the second part of your question was?
A brief question, because we said we keep it brief. We have more.
Sorry. Yeah, you asked. You asked something about the labeling. I prefer to have a number that is understandable for me. So price is a simple number. I can compare it and I can understand it. But whatever is on the label, I can't understand it. So for label, what we can have to make it easy to choose. I mean, yeah.
I don't know if we can answer this question for you tonight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are definitely small fashion there are fashion brands who work with this. So I think they're called 2/3. It's an Australian brand, and they actually map their entire CO2 emissions. And so next to the price in the store, you also see the CO2 emission. To me, that doesn't mean anything, but I guess if you get into it, then this is something, that would happen more often. Maybe you learn about it, or I don't know if you can compare it to, this much water is 100 baths or whatever, or 10 hours of showering. Maybe that these kind of links, I guess, can make it more understandable, and then after a while you learn it.
And there are platforms that you can compare brands.
Yeah, and
So good to know that.
I would say if you can compare brands, then if you have like 5 favorite brands that you put some time into, and you say, okay, I like those brands, I check them out, and I trust them, then they do the process for you. And I think that is how we also work if you want to have your house rebuilt. You will do that with someone you trust. You don't just put it on the internet and say, who's the cheapest to rebuild my house? You work with someone you trust, and I think you can also find brands that you can trust. I'm sure you can. And
But,
I think we have to have so much trust in each other and also in brands.
Yeah, but then again, I guess that's your point as well. Like Simone is getting nervous. Yeah, but there's the way you think you trust the brand, but why do you trust the brand? And sometimes you trust the brand, and it turns out that it's different. But I think if you have a QR code or this passport, and through this we can create apps and systems that makes it very easy to compare it to, for a standard T-shirt. If I buy it from this brand or I buy it secondhand, what does that actually mean? I think this could have, and it would be very easy to do it immediately. This could be very interesting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's not really a question, more one thing to add, because we discussed already producing less. We said recycling, but there's also something in between. The European Union, where you mentioned before, is working on a new law, a right to repair. So I'm not sure whether that also is valid for textiles, because this is very strong point that you can repair a textile and not glue it together, for instance. And this is a very strong method to reduce also waste. So that law is coming up, and also the European Union, you only can sell things. I come from the lighting industry, but you only can sell products that apply for the law. And same thing for your labels. So I'm not worried about for cheating in that much. But I think right to repair is a very good point. And it will, I think next year or something like that, soon that new law will be applicable.
Also 27. Good that you bring it up. I need to wrap up, but first I need to say a few more things I would love to. Yeah, I will before. But I think because this part was a bit more silent apart from you. I hope that you were introduced, but we can continue, of course, the discussion. But maybe there's one thing I like to wrap up, because now you've seen too, we talked a lot about labeling, and this is on the consumer part, on the branding part. But don't forget about what you brought in, like on the design part, that you at least start these new things. This is also happening, that more farmers are now kind of swapping their culture from like the breeding of and the farming to agricultural crops. So that means it's also interesting for new ways of dealing with it, which means that also you get a chance to in the end develop these kind of things further. So I would like to also be a bit positive, because we have regulation coming up. We have like also like the labeling, all the things that we've discussed, but we also have a responsibility. So maybe that's something that I would like to ask you before we wrap up by someone else. But think about that rather than punishing like, oh, who is doing what here. We all are doing these things, and we need to help each other. So maybe, but I like to always end positive. I hope you agree with me.
I agree with you 100%, and I think what Erik does is that they started this pilot and they started recycling the garments or the textile into yarns and make new labels, and that there is a market for it, and that people will do it. And the same for Back to the Flax is that you can create a small chain from the bottom up, so you don't always have to tap into what exists. You can also start your own.
Great. Being small can also be radical. That's also good to know. Before I give the word to someone else here, I need to point out, it's not of my, but someone said that to me. Don't forget about the QR code, because it's important that all these things can kind of remain or be even more intense, what you said, like weekly. That's very ambitious, but it's cool. So don't forget about that. And then I will hand the mic to someone who is still writing and drawing. Am I correct? Is it the right timing for you? Okay, cool.
Thank you. Interesting what you're doing. And the word trust passed a lot of times on the floor. I had to think of Abraham Lincoln, who once said, trust, you can fool all people some of the time. You can fool some people all of the time, but you never fool all people all of the time. Perhaps things have changed since these lobbyists are so strong, but I still think that somehow you must find a way to bring it into the focus of the people. And price, profit are two very important aspects. And perhaps it would be good, I mean, I heard a lot of re's, like rethink, like resell, recycle, respin, reuse. The last one was repair. I would like to add another one, which is rethink. So start thinking anew, just as if you came from Mars and you just landed here, and you know something about people, but you don't know anything about this product. And you have a very interesting book which works on that principle, which is called Not Invented Here. And in this book, Vullings explains a lot of examples how people in one industry are looking for solutions which are already present in other industries. And in your case, I would say that getting the attention of the public, a good area for you would be the biodynamic farming business. I think they are having the same sort of problems which you have with the image, and how to get people feeling responsible for what they buy. And I think you can learn a lot in these other fields, because it would be too bad if flax didn't stay in its prominent place. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Beautiful, thank you.
You can also add refuse, that's on top of the ladder. Then we buy less. Then we have all the re's coming together. I think reflex. Yeah, we keep that one. Yeah, the reflex.
Go on and on.
I think I can invite people for a drink, right? Is that correct? Or I give the mic to you, that's better.
Just short. Thank you so much. Thank you all both so much. It was very insightful, and I need to point out, Zoe, for those of you who want to stay for dinner, she will set you on a table, and first we're going to have drinks and talk a little bit more. Thank you. And thank you, Hans, Zoe, Maria, and Robert. Thanks.